Shalom Alechem, Assalamu Alaikum. Welcome to First Kings chapter 4. There are 34 verses in this chapter. This is going to be a shorter video than normal, and so we will skip ahead to verse 20. Verse 20 is where we see our first significant differences, I would say. So we have two full verses that were added in the Masoretic. It reads here, "And Israel were many as the sand, which is by the sea, in multitude, eating and drinking and making merry. And Solomon reigned over all kingdoms from the river unto the land of the Philistines, and unto the border of Egypt. They brought presents and served Solomon all the days of his life." Verse 22, it describes requisite supplies, so necessary supplies versus provision. In verse 24, describes there's an addition of overall the region. Verse 25 and 26 were added. Let's read those. "And Yehuda and Israel dwelt safely, every man under his vine, and under his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. And Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots, and 12,000 horsemen." Verse 27, all the orders versus all that came. So the focus in the Septuagint is on the orders that were received for the table of the king versus the Masoretic focusing on the individuals who were going to provide the victuals. Verse 28, chariots versus dromedaries. So dromedaries are camels or mules. Rakesh is the word, but it can be translated in a bunch of different ways, at least three. But chariots is how the Septuagint renders it. Significant difference in this verse, it says where the king might be versus where the officers were. Verse 29, "Adonai, Yah, gave understanding to Solomon and very much wisdom," versus wisdom and understanding exceeding much. So it's interesting to notice now the Hebrew understanding or Hebrew reckoning definition of understanding, the word understanding itself means to discern, to be able to see through lies, to discern between the truth and falseness, the falsity. And it also means to be able to build a foundation. And in this case, biblically and scripturally, we're referring to the Torah, to be able to understand the Torah and use that as your foundation of understanding. However, the definition, the Hebraic understanding of the word wisdom is much different. It is a spirit of wisdom. It comes from Adonai, and the best place to go to is the Apocrypha. It is actually not just Ecclesiastes, but Ecclesiasticus and Wisdom of Solomon, and it personifies wisdom as being a very plays a big role in the creation. So this would lead many to understand and interpret that wisdom could be the pre-incarnate Christ. So it could be the Logos, could be the Parakletos, just speculation on my part, but very instrumental in creation. There is a verse here that pretty much explicitly says so. So the creator of all things gave me a commandment. Okay, no, that's not it. We can just see how I covered the earth as a cloud. I dwelt in high places, compassed the circuit of heaven, caused my tabernacle to rest. Your dwelling be in Jacob, your inheritance in Israel. He created me from the beginning, before the world. I shall never fail. So this spirit of wisdom was created by Adonai, where it doesn't say that Yeshua was created by him. The Logos was not created. So I would now lean on, no, it's not the pre-incarnate Christ, although this is wisdom personified. So I don't believe this is Yeshua. I believe it is a spirit of wisdom. Could it be the Parakletos? Perhaps. Perhaps it could be. It's hard to say. I am the mother of fair love, and fear, and knowledge, and holy hope. I, therefore, being eternal, am given to all my children which are named of him. Okay. All these things are the book of the covenant of the Most High God, even the law which Moses commanded. So that is part of wisdom, is the Torah. Faint not to be strong in the Lord, that he may confirm you. Cleave unto him. For the Lord Almighty is Elohim alone. Beside him there is no other Savior, no other Savior. Yeah, he fills all things with his wisdom. He makes understanding to abound like Euphrates. He makes the doctrine of knowledge appear as the light. The first man knew her not perfectly, so Adam did not know wisdom, knowledge, understanding perfectly. No more shall the last find her out. Okay, so that sounds a little anti-scriptural, because the last Adam did know wisdom. So this is a very contentious verse to me now. Her thoughts are more than the sea. Perhaps this is talking about the last man to live, perhaps. Maybe not Yeshua himself. Her counsel is profounder than the great deep. Okay, I'll make my doctrine to shine as the morning. I'll pour out doctrine as prophecy. I have not labored for myself only, but for all them that seek wisdom. So wisdom seems to be a spirit. It is a spirit, and again, the best place is to read about wisdom, as I mentioned, Ecclesiastes, Ecclesiasticus, and Wisdom of Solomon. Those are apocryphal books, except for Ecclesiastes, obviously. And this chapter that I just scanned over, it is the wisdom chapter. We have 1 Corinthians, I believe it's chapter 13, the love chapter. And so this is the wisdom chapter. Let me just fact check myself and make sure the love chapter, I believe it is 13, but it could be 15. Okay, it is 13. I was right. Okay, and so let's carry on with our differences in the narrative between the two translations. So in my opinion, wisdom is greater than understanding. Yes, it's good to have understanding, but Solomon was given greater wisdom compared to understanding. As the Septuagint points out, this is only confirmed in verse 30, and we have a big difference here. Let's pay close attention. It says here, beyond all the wisdom of the ancients. So Solomon abounded greatly beyond the wisdom of all the ancients. What does it say in the Masoretic? He excelled the wisdom of all the children of the East country. Well, by default, most wise men will be wiser than children, even all the children. But to be wise beyond the wisdom of all the ancients, and I would include in that group Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Noah, Adam, Enoch, Methuselah, all the great ancient fathers. Solomon surpassed them in wisdom, is what this is saying. Okay, so that is not something to take lightly. And then it says here, he also was beyond all the wise men, not just wisdom in general, like the library of wisdom in Egypt, but the wise men of Egypt. Verse 31, there's an addition of, and his fame was in all nations round about. In verse 32, another big difference, because if I was Solomon, I would say this is a big difference. They don't give him the credit in the Masoretic text. they credit 1,005 songs to Solomon, whereas the Septuagint gives him full credit. He wrote 5,000 songs. Okay. Verse 34. There's an omission in verse 34. However, this verse seems to be in 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 1. However, there is a portion of this verse that is completely omitted, and that is the following. Then went up Pharaoh, the king of Mizraim, and took Gezer and burnt it, and the Canaanite dwelling in Mergab. And Pharaoh gave them as a dowry to his daughter, the wife of Solomon, and Solomon rebuilt Gezer. So that portion I just read is not found in the Masoretic text. Okay, so we're actually going to rewind and go back to the previous chapter. There is something I missed in the footnote. It's regarding the instance where King Solomon instructed a sword to be brought, and he said to divide the live child. And then it says here how the woman was telling the truth, how she reacted. It says her bowels yearned over her son. In the footnote, it reads like this. Her womb was troubled. Her womb was troubled. So we have an expression that I've noticed women use. They'll say something to the effect of, "My ovaries are going to explode." So it's an expression which I think is along those lines, that it's not literally exploding, and the womb is not literally, troubled or yearning, but that's how they feel. That's how the woman would describe that sensation. Their emotions would lead them to believe that their womb is troubled, that it's feeling intense emotions or feelings for her son. So that's all for chapter 4, and then even chapter 3, just a little footnote that was missed. Thank you again for your time. Till next time, I bid you all Shalom Aleichem, Yivarechacha Adonai V'yishmerecha, Assalamu Alaikum, Barachmatulahi wa Barakatu, Irini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum, peace be unto you. May the Lord bless you and protect you always, and Maranatha.